The following is a presentation of the Sovryn Tech podcast feed.
Generally we're going to talk a little bit about video games, but it goes far beyond that, as oft my discussions around video games do. Generally, with video game players, with gamers, this, which I consider myself in their number, this has been met with applause. The only people that hate it are the types like investors. Well, basically, let's just call it profiteers, and I don't mean, and more like racketeers, really, because I don't say profiteers in a positive sense in this case. Is one of the old Sovryn Tech axioms go that I've said for almost as long as the show's been around. Sure, profit isn't a dirty word, but then neither is value. And are you getting value out of this? Well, let's talk about what we are talking about here. It's been a little while since I've talked about NFTs. In fact, it might even be over a year since I've done like a full-on expose on the matter. Not that this is going to be totally full-on. This is going to stay in one little corner because NFTs, in the year since I've really talked about them, at length, maybe it's been less than a year. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Since the last time I talked about them, I mean, they've really come to at least attempt to permeate just about every market sector that you can think of. From the fashion industry to real estate, I'm not kidding about that, to, of course, video games, as we've mentioned. And then there's just the wildness that somehow JPEGs actually hold value. Blows my mind, but, or it holds monetary value, I should say. That blows my mind, but whatever. And while floor prices of NFTs have dropped precipitously since April of 2022, something that I'm very happy about. I mean, let me open up with this really fast. If you think my mind has changed about NFTs, that suddenly I'm like, oh no, NFTs are a good thing. Oh no, no, not at all. But fortunately, I'm very much not alone. Anyway, even though NFT prices have dropped precipitously, of course, so has just about anything based on blockchain tech has dropped precipitously in price. And there's, certainly conversations to have around that, but we're not going to do that here. We're sticking specifically within the realm of NFTs and gaming, and of course, but it is it speaks to a much larger subject around this concept of NFTs. If I think of it, I will link in the show notes my main episode that I did where I was just thrashing the entire notion of NFTs, because nothing of that episode has changed. That episode's probably going to be evergreen for all time as far as, the reality around NFTs. And I mean, if anything, the things I've said in it have only been proven further. Like at the time, I think I was just speculating that NFTs were being used for money laundering. Now it's a fact. Like now we know the cases where it's happened, and, varying governmental organizations, not that I applaud them in any way, are going after people over these matters. So anyway, if I think of it, I will link to that, but it's easy enough to find in the feed at sovryntech.com. So let's talk about what happened here. And certainly it's not as simple as the story gets laid out. We'll break that down. We'll get into it. But I want to talk about it, and that is that Mojang, or as I had often called Mahjong over the years, but what is essentially Microsoft, and from this point going forward, I'm just going to say Microsoft, not Mojang. But Mojang, of course, the original developers of the wildly popular game, and dare I say, like, alternate universe, and I don't even want to call it a metaverse, even though really Minecraft, which is what we're talking about, really is already, like, people are talking about, oh, the metaverse is coming. I mean, Minecraft's already been here for years, and it's been wildly successful and popular to the point that Microsoft bought out the developer, Mojang, years ago. That's already a metaverse. Now, I'm not much of a metaverse guy, and that in mind, like, I recognize what Minecraft was, and I've never gotten into it. That's not me knocking it for anybody who is into it. Like, that's fine. But it's just it's never been something that really like it's a game where I feel like it dominates too much of your perception and reality, which those are intertwined, of course. And kind of like World of Warcraft, where I felt like, yes, you can pause Minecraft ultimately, but it kind of, to me, looking into it, it felt too much like an MMO. It felt too much like that, where it's something that is kind of its own organism, and you have to tend to it, and you can't just pause it and walk away from it. And that's not my kind of gaming. Even though myself, to be clear, as I've said over and over and over again, I am a gamer first, then a historian, and then a tech journalist. In that order. Those are the, if I were to quickly identify myself by three things as far as what I do, there it is. Gamer, historian, tech journalist at the end. But gamer number one. So, but, gaming is such a, has such breadth, is so wide spanning that, a lot of people, there's different aspects of gaming. Some people are only into fighting games. Some people are only into this type of game or this type of game. Some people only play Candy Crush, which, I want to do more with my life, but okay. It's what you do. But, Minecraft is also, I recognize that Minecraft is a very unique animal, even within gaming, which has a lot of unique animals, and generally has a lot of different genres. Minecraft is very much like its own genre, and I think there are a lot of people who play Minecraft that really don't play other video games. Like that is what they do. It's kind of like somebody who's really into chess, right? But they don't play, whatever other board game that happens to be out there. Like they won't play checkers or they don't play Risk. They only play chess. Minecraft is in that number where it's a phenomenon as much as it is a game. Now, because of that, there have been a lot of what you could call aftermarket businesses, business opportunities that have come out of it where people, have basically made a mint. And I don't just mean like people doing Minecraft videos on YouTube and making money off of, the ads, the ad revenue on YouTube. But there are a lot of people who have done, exterior work around Minecraft because it is such a phenomenon that, or extracurricular, shall we say, work that has turned a profit for them. One of the things that happened in recent months is the development of NFTs in relation to Minecraft. Now, to be clear, none of this is official by Microsoft itself. Microsoft has yet to dip their toes into NFTs, and I want to talk about that, get into that even more. But Microsoft has at the very least come out and said there will be no NFTs in relation to Minecraft. Now, I want to get into the story about that. I want to take a quick break, but we're going to break down. We're going to get into the story. We're going to talk about what happened here. How did Microsoft, what is Microsoft doing? Apparently bucking the trend of NFTs in gaming when even Square, when Square Enix is now making Final Fantasy NFTs. What is Microsoft thinking here? We're going to get into that, and I'll be right back with more. Woo! Have you had enough of the big-name web hosting services that are long on promises but short on bleeding-edge features, uptime, and customer service? Or are you just looking for a performance boost for your business's online presence? The answer is Agorist Hosting. Agorist Hosting is the agile web host that offers full concierge service from website redesign, full e-commerce solutions, even custom apps for your Shopify store, and more. All with security, reliability, redundancy, and privacy at the forefront. Oh, and those bleeding-edge features? How about hosting your data in a decentralized system like IPFS, the Interplanetary File System? Good luck getting that from those other guys. Agorist Hosting is ready to take your web presence into the future. Head over to agoristhosting.com to get started. That's AGORIST hosting.com. agoristhosting.com. Is, and I don't even think it's arguable, is like the biggest Nintendo news site on the planet. I'll admit, it's a website that, me being a gamer and loving my Nintendo 3DS and my Switch, and Nintendo in general, this is a site that really, it's a tab that never gets closed. It only gets refreshed. Okay? Like, I probably read news from Nintendo Life more than just about any other news outlet, regardless of subject. It's between Nintendo Life and Nintendo Everything. I mean, that's just where I'm at. Now, of course, again, Minecraft is a Microsoft property now. But even under Microsoft's tenure of it, or even under Microsoft's watching over stewardship of the property, they have not held back at all on making sure that Minecraft is available basically on any fucking platform they can find. I mean, whether it's 3DS, Switch, I mean, take your pick. They're not just like leaving it on PC or Xbox. And a smart move, certainly, partly because, it was already available in many places just due to what Mojang was doing with it before Microsoft bought them out. So, but I get to read from Nintendo Life here, a story by Kate Gray, and this is incredibly fresh. We're talking like just this past Wednesday as of when this episode gets released. So just a couple of days ago. And it's Mojang says no to Minecraft NFTs. Again, I'm not going to really bother calling it Mojang. I'm just going to say Microsoft straight up. And it's important, I think, that we keep that in mind, that this is Microsoft saying this ultimately, because Microsoft has, greater breadth, greater reach than one company like Mojang ever could. And what they're saying here, I think, speaks to a broader strategy on the part of Microsoft itself. So let's talk about this. In a post on the Minecraft blog today, July 20th, 2022, Mojang staff drew a line in the sand when it comes to non-fungible tokens, NFTs, and the blockchain in their game, following feedback from players seeking clarification on the company's position on the controversial topic. Multiple mod makers, companies, and creators appear to have used Minecraft to make their own NFTs, making world files and skin packs to sell to players using the game itself to earn players' NFTs through activities done on a shared server or using the Minecraft art itself in NFTs. So, Stallion here, just to kind of explain what's going on. So basically, Minecraft is a game that, like, the mod community is just nuts with, right? Making modifications to the base game and everything. And Minecraft runs off of, a lot of people can have their independent servers that they're running, a Minecraft instance, shall we say, off of. And on certain servers, you can't, they were adding in capabilities with NFTs. So that's how they were modding the base game, and they were, to have access to certain skin packs or, whatever, maps, things like that, whatever that equates to in Minecraft. The people running those popular servers were selling NFTs that represented, say, the skin packs that only really worked on those servers, which, is one could argue is a bit of a problem in itself. And they're making, I don't want to say they're making a mint off of it, because that's not meant to be punny about minting NFTs, but they're making some money off of this. And in particular, there was a company, and I'm sure they'll talk about it in this story, there was a company called World of NFTs, and that was like an NFT series for Minecraft itself. World of NFTs, which was doing fairly well as far as NFT mints go. World of NFTs, the price, you want to talk about precipitous drop? That wasn't a precipitous drop. That was a Twilight Zone death elevator that dropped, as soon as this announcement came out. Am I happy about that? Yeah, you know what? Honestly, I am. So let's read more. Mojang has no trouble with servers requiring secondary payment from players as long as the person charging for access maintains the same level of pricing and mod access to all players. But they draw the line at NFTs for the following reasons. So here's from the, I guess would be the blog post or the press release here, from Microsoft themselves. Okay, so quote, NFTs are not inclusive of all our community and create a scenario of the haves and the have-nots. The speculative pricing and investment mentality around NFTs takes the focus away from playing the game and encourages profiteering, which we think is inconsistent with the long-term joy and success of our players. End quote. Now, there's more. Let me comment on this part quick, okay? But there's more from the blog post that's of interest. I love this, okay? Now, it's Microsoft. Is Microsoft against profiteering? Fuck no. Right? We're talking about Microsoft here. You know, this isn't the I don't know, this isn't Goodwill, right? Oh, man. Anyway, you know, would I believe Mojang if they were saying this and they weren't owned by Microsoft? Okay, maybe. But do I believe Microsoft here with what they're saying? Not exactly, but just because, you know, I think Microsoft is saying this for the wrong reasons, and I'll get into that, doesn't mean they're not right. They are right. Like, this is totally on point. And I am amazed. I mean, this just goes to show, like, the disconnect between, I don't want to say all game developers, but between a lot of people who are heavily invested in the concept of NFTs, a lot of the suits at these, you know, at game developers, like, say, I don't know, you know, Square Enix, like we mentioned earlier, you know, or EA or other companies like this. But there's an absolute disconnect, because what gamers want to do is have long-term joy, right? Just that's right out of Microsoft's words here. Long-term joy, and you know, you're putting in speculative pricing and investment mentality that takes the focus away from playing the game. And you know, I have such a hard time believing that there is a groundswell of gamers that are actually excited about NFTs. I just I have a hard time believing that. Because just about any time that somebody announces that they're going to be putting NFTs in games, I mean, on just about any social media platform, there is just a shitstorm. And, you know, as somebody who, look, I hate social media, but I also happen to be, of all ironies, I am a social media expert, as in, and I mean that, as in, like, I get paid to handle social media matters. And, you know, not to pat myself in the back, because believe me, I'm not proud of it, but I'm fucking good at it. I can usually recognize when something's a bot as compared to real people. You know, I can usually recognize when something is like, oh, you know, this is just like some grassroots bullshit of like a bunch of asshats, you know, one person running a million sock accounts, you know, being an asshole to Kelly Marie Tran or something. I can usually recognize when it's that. When these stories about, you know, some game developer, you know, implementing NFTs come out, no, I think the groundswell is very, very real, and it's genuinely passionate gamers who are saying, don't do this, we don't want this, what the fuck is wrong with you? In fact, I brought this up when one of the guys from Linkin Park, when he came out and said, oh, guys, we could do so much with NFTs where you could, like, your Stormtrooper outfit could be carried across games and everything, and everybody, including, you know, very popular YouTubers, you know, all came out and said, look, man, we're a fan of you, but you don't understand. You're just dead wrong. This can't work this can't work this way in games. So yeah, I really haven't. I mean, I've even worked with NFT companies, believe it or not. Not by default, or what I mean is, but like kind of as a byproduct. And I just like, I don't see it. I don't see the people who are like genuinely excited, you know, about like NFTs. Like, I don't know where that is. You know, there's people who are excited about, again, the speculative mindset about making money off of it, but like, as far as making, like, you know, as far as like being passionate about the concept of NFTs, no, I don't see it. I mean, maybe like there would be one or two people who like you could make a tweet that's like, oh, share your best NFTs or whatever, and but I mean that's about all you get out of that. Microsoft's spot on here, bottom line, in that, like this, what does ultimately with video games, okay, you want to make money off of the video game. I mean, we're not even talking about loot crates and all that other bullshit, okay? And that stuff that has been widely panned and properly panned, by the gaming community in general over and over and over again, okay? What does the investment mentality have to do with playing video games? I would assume it has nothing. I mean, I guess there could be games where that is a thing, but then design the game in that way. And even then, we know how much that fails, right? Just look at Axie Infinity. Like play to earn and all this other stuff. Like, then make that part of the game from the get-go so that the people who actually just want to play a great video game can look at it and say, yeah, no, and I don't even want to say, like, how about this? I'll say this, like, it's fine that if you want that kind of, like, play-to-earn game, or if you want to, I don't know, something like, maybe Fortnite or something like that, where clearly it's all about marketing, and about somebody making a buck off of it. And if you build a business around that, I'm not even necessarily saying that that's wrong, but then, like, be honest about it and make it, make people aware that that's like a base level or a base concept of the game itself. As to where otherwise, if you're going to make a video game, make the video game about what it's meant to be about. Having fun, joy, not implementing. I mean, the money should be out of the equation after you've put, the $50 down at Toys R Us, as it were. I know Toys R Us, well, that's not true. I was going to say, I know Toys R Us doesn't really exist anymore, but actually it's going to be in Macy's fucking everywhere. And I'll be intrigued to see how that takes shape. So let's read on with the next bit from Microsoft here. Quote, "We are also concerned that some third-party NFTs may not be reliable and may end up costing players who buy them. Some third-party NFT implementations are also entirely dependent on blockchain technology and may require an asset manager who might disappear without notice. There have also been instances where NFTs were sold at artificially or fraudulently inflated prices." And I mean, so here it is, like Microsoft is hitting right at it, that, okay, this is reliant upon technologies that are outside of the control of Microsoft and in the Minecraft game itself, in that these things could disappear at a moment's notice, whatever software that happens to be, or whatever the asset manager happens to be. And when that goes away, you've lost everything within that game, or that you had bought for that game. And what's going to happen because of that? Well, the person who invested in the NFTs is going to be pissed off. Maybe they lose their skin packs, or they lose whatever else. And who knows how much they fucking paid for it, because, again, it's a speculative asset. Okay, so they did all of that. And then, it just disappears on them out of nowhere. And so they're going to, like I said, they're going to be pissed off. And what are they going to do? They're going to stop playing the game. Is that good for Microsoft? No. So can you understand why Microsoft would say, we're not going to allow for this shit? This shit has to come to an end? Yeah, of course they're going to say that, right? Now, is there more than that? Yes, but let me finish reading the story quick, and then we'll get into the wrapping points. In short, Mojang is seeking to provide a, quote, safe and inclusive experience, end quote, to its players, and has therefore stated that, quote, blockchain technologies are not permitted, nor may they be utilized to create NFTs associated with in-game content, end quote. However, the door is not fully closed on the blockchain, as the closing paragraphs state that Mojang will be, quote, paying close attention, end quote, to the technology to, quote, determine whether it will allow for more secure experiences or other practical and inclusive applications in gaming, end quote. That's not likely to happen anytime soon or ever, as the company has, quote, no plans, end quote, to integrate blockchain technology in the game. Now, so there's the end of the story from Kate Gray on Nintendo Life. Let's break this down some more. Is Microsoft against the use of NFTs ultimately, in the abstract? Probably not. In fact, Microsoft actually was, as far as tech giants go especially, and really companies in general, has been well ahead of the curve in implementing blockchain technology. For example, you could buy things in the Microsoft Store with Bitcoin years ago. Like, that was completely possible. You could pay for your Xbox Live subscription in Bitcoin. They have been, supportive of, varying Ethereum projects. It's not like they are against blockchain. they've been incredibly supportive of it over the years. Okay, so it's not that. Now, is there a part of this, and this is the elephant in the room, is there a part of this that's Microsoft really, they're just pissed off that someone else is making a buck that they're not claiming? Of course they are. Sure they are. Would they implement NFTs in Minecraft if they could figure out a way to keep it to themselves and for them to make the buck off of it? Absolutely. But I think that they've got to be seeing the market signals. And Microsoft is big enough. Well, let me finish my point. They've got to be seeing the market signals from gamers themselves. They're getting the applause for doing this, for enacting this. Okay, and saying that, yeah, no, we're not going to allow for NFTs and everything. I mean, and as far as I've seen, most people are just like, I mean, they're clapping, they're happy as shit. That Microsoft has effectively banned NFTs from Minecraft. But the other part here is that Microsoft never, ever has to implement NFTs. Why? Because they make their money off of wholly other, aspects of their gigantic corporation. Okay, so it's not like there are companies, maybe even like Square Enix, where they feel like, holy shit, like our quarterly numbers are way down. What are we going to do to boost this? And to appease investors, they're implementing the hot new thing, that being NFTs, and they have to go forward. Look, Microsoft doesn't have to do that. I mean, it's not a requirement for them. As to where with other game developers, I mean, the real answer is, okay, how does a game development house, how do they end up making more money? Well, you make great games instead of shit. That's a simple way to make more money. But instead they decide, we'll implement NFTs instead of actually making great games. Okay. Konami. We got the peanut gallery here. Rob had to put it in. Yeah, because Konami was they were one of the first ones to start saying, oh yeah, we're going to do NFTs. Yeah, we're not going to make a new Castlevania game, but we're going to come out with Castlevania NFTs. What the fuck? You've got the hottest series on Netflix, and you won't make a video game about it when that's what it was based on in the first place? Are you fucking insane? Oh, man. Anyway. So, yeah, I mean, this is just, again, Microsoft they will never, ever, 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 ever have to worry about NFTs. Not only that, Microsoft is the number 4? They're the 4th largest game developer now on the planet ever since the Bethesda deal. I think that puts them at number 4. They dominate the gaming industry so much, not just with the franchises that they own now and that they've bought out, to say nothing of Halo and others. Not just because of hardware, with the Xbox, which they only recently probably started making a buck off of the hardware anyway, if they even have. But they're dominating just with Xbox Cloud, with cloud gaming. They are the premier cloud gaming solution, and that is one aspect of gaming that, whether I like it or not, is really taking off and is really attractive to people, and is probably going to be the future for new, what you would call AAA games going forward. I don't agree with it, but it's just the way things are going. Fortunately, there is such a thing as retro gaming that we all get to take advantage of. But that's a separate conversation, and hopefully there's never NFTs involved with that. But this is very similar. Remember, Nintendo came out and said the same thing. They said, no, we're not going to, and it's funny that Microsoft used very similar language, because Nintendo came out a few months ago and said, yeah, we don't see how NFTs are going to bring joy, so we're not doing it. Right answer. And Nintendo's another one where they don't have to worry about it. They never have to implement NFTs. Why? Because Nintendo makes money more so than any other game developer, and they are arguably, or in my opinion, they are the greatest game developer of all time, next to maybe LucasArts. But they make money off the games and the hardware. They have total control. They exist in their own little world, just like Apple, right? Who is, the most successful company on the planet right now. So it's just that, honestly, that alone, the fact that Microsoft can say no to NFTs, that Nintendo can say no to NFTs, really just proves the point of why is anybody getting excited about NFTs? It's because they're losing market share, their bottom line is shit, and this is just a way to make money. It's not innovation. It's just a way to try and get, back into the black. And that's really all that it's about. It's not about giving gamers more joy, more power, more agency, whatever. It is absolutely just about these companies, making an extra buck. But again, it doesn't have to be that way. Nintendo doesn't have to do it. Microsoft doesn't have to do it. PlayStation, frankly, doesn't have to do it, even though, again, as a byproduct, they seem to be. Because, Final Fantasy and PlayStation now, even though this shouldn't be the case, but because really Final Fantasy's greatest history, in my opinion, was as a Nintendo series. But regardless, Final Fantasy now, it's synonymous with the PlayStation. Even though many of the games that were PlayStation exclusives are now like everywhere, from smartphones to Switch to take your pick. Okay, so once you're getting like Final Fantasy NFTs, effectively Sony's into NFTs. Now, are they hurting? That's a great question. Like, I don't have very good analysis on who's. Switch is number one, clearly, in the present console war. But as far as who's winning between Microsoft and PlayStation, I got to think that really Sony's just being left in the dust, because Xbox or Microsoft ultimately isn't even playing. They're not even fighting a console war anymore. They took to the skies, right? They went to the clouds. They went to the cloud, and that's where they're dominating. So, like, Sony's not even on the same terrain, effectively. So it's interesting that, like, because really, like, if Sony wanted to, they could say to Square, like, no, you're not going to implement NFTs, or, we're going to deplatform your games, or, whatever it ends up being. I really think that they could pull that, but Sony seems to think that they need it. And I say this as somebody who's really traditionally, like, I love the PlayStation. I'm a big fan of so much of what's been done, on that platform. But anyway, so this speaks to, like, I think you're seeing now, again, Microsoft in the future, if NFTs really do take off, because they've yet to. I know it seems like they're everywhere, but that's just the market trying to, like, force feed everybody this new idea. And as far as, what are NFTs really about? It's really about re-implementing the gatekeeping that the internet originally had set free. And that, again, NFTs are not pro-consumer by any stretch of the imagination, other than if you're some kind of, like, investor and you're buying them speculatively. Beyond that, as far as, like, actual use, they're redundant. And again, they're not pro-consumer. They're not offering any great benefit, to the consumer. And everything, all the pie in the sky ideas, like, those are going to they're going to hit the hard road of reality very soon. And you're going to see that, well, no, you actually can't carry your skin over from Minecraft to Fortnite via your NFT, because the fucking thing's not going to look the same. And, among other problems that are going to occur with that, to say nothing of, like, when, again, like Microsoft pointed out, an asset manager disappears or anything like that. So I applaud that, these companies that are mainstays in their market sector are saying no. Like, we're not interested, in what these have to offer. Or at the very least, they're saying, we don't know how this is actually going to be pro-consumer, because that's effectively what you're saying. When you're saying this affects long-term joy, that's coming right out and saying this is not going to make the consumer happy. So that's not pro-consumer. They recognize, here you have the biggest company, one of the biggest companies, number 2, 3, or 4 on the planet, telling you that NFTs are not pro-consumer. That's the real message here. And that's why, even if you're not a gamer, that's why I thought this is really important to get this story out there and to talk about it, because of what it's saying on a much broader scale. Because, like I said, it seems like NFTs are fucking everywhere right now. But this is just a massive market experiment, and it's one that I think, if it doesn't fail, it's simply because it just kept getting force-fed. But, before you think, well, but it's so out there, it's so popular over the past couple of years, there's no way that it could fail. Like, so many people are talking about it. So many celebrities and whoever else, they're all backing NFTs and everything. I want to remind you of a technology that was fucking everywhere. And I mean everywhere. It was on TV. both marketing-wise and perhaps even what you were seeing. It was in theaters. It was just all over the goddamn place. You know what that technology is? 3D televisions. You got a 3D television now? I don't think so. Do you see a 3D television when you go to Best Buy? Nope. But 10 years over, just a little over a decade ago, you couldn't escape the fucking things. They were everywhere. And you had NVIDIA trying to sell you these asshat looking goggles that you would put on. I mean, that made you look like, you didn't look like you came from Mars. I don't know, you looked like you just came out of I don't know, some kind of tank underwater. I mean, you look like you got the bends or something wearing those damn things, because the way it was like weighing down your neck even. It was insane. I mean, can you imagine that? Like, I remember at the time the criticisms, and I agreed with them. Like, imagine a family, sitting around the television, and they all have these giant goggles on. You're all like sharing popcorn. And you're just bashing each other's heads with your 3D headsets and everything. Oh, just fucking madness. Anyway, but it was everywhere, and it didn't matter how ridiculous. Everybody recognized that it was. You were constantly being told, from Walmart to Best Buy to the movie theater to wherever, this is the fucking future. 3D is here. Without 3D, your movie sucks. Without 3D, you're not actually watching TV. Without 3D, blah, blah, blah. You're not living if you don't have a 3D television. You understand? You're a loser. You're scum. It's the same message that's being said about NFTs right now. And just like 3D TVs, that can be proven dead wrong. And a year from now, NFTs could be dust in the wind. Just like 3D televisions are. And it's amazing because the arguments are exactly the same. Like, the arguments with 3D televisions was, growing pains. Like, the technology will get better. It will get better. It'll get to a certain point. And it's, to some degree, it did get better. But at the end of the day, it still never really worked. It never really took off. I mean, it even got implemented in gaming, right? Like, there was that technology. In fact, I think this was on PlayStation, might have been PS4 that allowed for this, where you could play the way the screen, the 3D screen was set up. You had to wear the goggles, okay, but you could play a multiplayer game, but you would both look at the same screen, and it wouldn't be like it wouldn't be screen sharing, or whatever they call it. I forget the term for that. Split screen, right. It wouldn't be split screen multiplayer. It would just be, you'd be looking at the screen, and you would see, based upon what goggles you were wearing, you would see, like a different screen of the game, you'd see your player, while the person next to you would see your player, and it'd fill in the entire screen. Now, that's a brilliant idea, to be clear. Like, in the abstract, that sounds fantastic, right? And while they tried to do it, there were only a few games that ever took advantage of it, and it never really worked well anyway. So even when you think, oh, well, that's a good idea, well, a lot of times those good ideas can be implemented in completely other ways that don't require you to wear funny, goggles, or to, like, be concerned about, oh, shit, what is, like, this skin that I'm wearing in this game actually worth, and blah, 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 as compared to actually just fucking enjoying the game. One of the best arguments, and it really does come down to that, like, just enjoy the game. I mentioned retro gaming. Like, one of the best arguments for retro gaming, even though retro gaming can take a lot of different shapes, including, like, emulation. But there's a lot of people who are really into, this is an age-old argument. Why would you buy an original, like, Sega Genesis console when you can just play all the Genesis games on, an emulator on your PC or something, right? And I understand where people are coming from in saying that. Well, part of the argument is there's the art of actually having, like a Sega Genesis, which is a work of art in itself. There's the beauty of actually looking and seeing the console. But then there's also the beauty of just turning the console on, just like it was in the old days. You press power, game on, and away you go. There's no connecting. There's no, like, having to configure shit. There's none of that. You just turn on the console and you play the game. As to where with emulation, especially if you talk like the N64, yeah, you have to choose, okay, well, which core am I going to use to play? Like, which one handles GoldenEye best? How am I going to configure the controller to work with the weird claw controller that the N64 had, which, of course, I love, but, I get it where people think it was weird. It's a bit of a complex situation. You do not want to add or at least there are many people who don't want that complexity in their life, and so their argument is, well, I'll just fucking buy the original console. And kudos to them, But it also speaks to, there are people who love, going through the process of emulation, squeezing out every pixel they can and whatever else. And for them, then they have their avenue. The problem becomes when you tell people there's only one way to play or there's only one way to get this. And ultimately, a lot of NFTs are just that. It's like forcing you. It's a closed garden. It's really forcing you into one way of thinking, and that's a problem as well that I think Microsoft kind of hit at. But anyway, it all comes down to, with video games, it all comes down to joy. Really, with just about any purchase, generally it comes down to utility and joy. And I would argue NFTs offer neither. So that's it for this episode. It really is refreshing. Again, even if it is just because Microsoft doesn't know how they can really make a buck off of it right now, same with Nintendo, it is refreshing for companies to openly state whatever their thought process is behind the statement, to openly state the genuine problems with this technology, the absolute reality that NFTs are not pro-consumer and ultimately are not good for varying industries. So I will wrap this up at that, and I will see all of you on the other side. State the genuine problems with this technology, the absolute reality that NFTs are not pro-consumer and ultimately are not good for varying industries. So I will wrap this up at that, and I will see all of you on the other side.
Science, outer space, psychology, book and movie recommendations, fiction from the Sovryn universe, travels to points of mystery and the unexplained, and even spirituality? All of that can only mean one thing.
The Sovryn Technica Newsletter! By me, Ellen Sovryn, along with some stuff by that crazy man I call my husband, Dr. Brian Sovryn. It's the latest tool in your self-directed education, the education that really matters. If you want to cut through the crap of mainstream media ass clowns, sign up for the Sovryn Technica newsletter right now at sovryn.substack.com. That's sovryn.substack.com. The Sovryn Technica newsletter. Welcome to the future.